Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Threat Intel Weekly. It's been a minute. Things are looking a little cleaner now. We have a bit of a new setup, and we're excited to get into some of the news stories of the month. Because of our little break, we kind of wanted to go over some of the bigger stories that we may have missed. Joining me is Chase Carlin, Tracy Whitlock, Andrew Harrington, and Michael Gay. We're all security engineers here at Volta, and we're here to give you our perspective on what's been going on. So, to start things off, LastPass had a second breach. We talked about this a couple months ago. We predicted that it would probably lead to a second breach. The material that was stolen seemed to not be customer data, but more or less development data that might allow the malicious actors to have a better view of how customer data is stored. And it seems like that's what happened. So we have a good idea of what's been stolen so far. It doesn't seem like any passwords. Obviously, if you use complicated passwords, that's an even better chance that, nothing is going to get guessed password sprayed against you. But more importantly, it seems like they got unencrypted customer URLs. So if you have any personal data in those URLs, that is something that you should consider compromised at this point. Chase, you mentioned complex passwords. What are some other good password policies that might prevent against something like a breach of this nature from being like horrifying against you?
Well, I mean, on top of complex passwords, enabling and using MFA to log into your services, of course, is always going to be a big recommendation for obvious reasons. It's called two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication for a reason. You need multiple factors in order to log into services that are confidential, like your passwords to your bank account that you're storing in LastPass, or name anything. But I think a more important reason for complex passwords is, I'm not entirely sure if this LastPass breach included people's hashed master passwords, which is used to unlock your vault, basically, with all your passwords, and you can see them all in plain text. The problem is that if you can see the hash password and your master password, specifically in LastPass, is not good. If it's 8 characters, maybe got an exclamation point and some other character, guess what? That could, if the attacker gets that hash password, they could probably crack it. And that means not only do they have a local copy, maybe they have a local copy of the entire database of every LastPass customer. They can now go in and decrypt all of your passwords and usernames and everything else that are stored in there. If you use a complex password, though, the odds of them cracking a 32 character with special characters and capital letters and numbers, you'd need a supercomputer that doesn't exist to this day. Like it'd be impossible. So one of the benefits of using a complex password there.
Right. To your point, even if they do end up getting that complex password, if you have MFA enabled, that decreases the seriousness of that significantly. Obviously, keep MFA enabled on any account that you're able to, but especially right now on LastPass. So let's go ahead and move on. Tracy, what has Windows been looking like for the last month? I know you've been very angry.
Well, it's a little better than it was before. I mean, the November updates were probably one of the worst update cycles of the entire year. So, but this month it looks like there's some Windows 11 issues, like apps might not start after you do a system restore, so you're just going to have to reimage the entire computer. This is for Windows 11 21H1. And apparently Microsoft Defender accidentally did an attack surface reduction rule that deleted your Windows app shortcuts. Now, it was intending to help with macros, and Microsoft Office documents. So we know Windows macros is something that's been vulnerable forever, So it was trying to remediate that, but due to some mess up or something, that accidentally deletes your Windows shortcuts. Microsoft released an official PowerShell script to help get your stuff back, but only for 30 programs. And most of them are Microsoft products, so good luck to you sysadmins out there.
Yeah, good luck to you all. I don't expect that the next month will be any better. We saw the large amount of layoffs, I think it was 6 months ago, from Microsoft's QA teams. And for some reason, I think everyone expected things to get better immediately, but we are not seeing that. It's in line with a lot of companies right now, I think. Who just fired 12,000 people yesterday?
Google.
Google, yeah. I
Google.
was gonna say,
Yeah.
speaking of layoffs, Microsoft had 10,000 people get laid
Yep.
off, I think, earlier
They
this
laid
week,
off
and then you have Google.
5%.
Yeah, so you have Microsoft and Google, big tech companies that everyone in the world relies on, firing thousands of people. Over 10,000 both. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it would be kind of ignorant to not expect that to impact the final product in some way. When you have 10,000 people, I mean, we work on programs that like 3 people collaborate on, and good amounts of that program are in like one person's head. If you want to make any changes, you really got to discuss it. The collaboration process between 10,000 people, even if you own GitHub, has got to be difficult. So moving on, Norton LifeLock password vault cracked wide open. I don't know if anyone expected Norton to provide a good product. I don't want to blame you for this. I kind of want to make this a learning lesson, right? If you expected Norton to keep your information safe, this should be a lesson and maybe an eye-opening experience to realize that maybe you should do more research on the products you buy. Hold on, am I being too harsh on this? I don't think I am. So
Well,
we had
considering that Norton LifeLock advertises itself as like, you want to protect your data, and you see advertisers on TV all the time, like, Norton LifeLock will help you protect against identity theft and like all this stuff, and it's like, well, how well can you trust their statements if you see stuff like this on the exact same service that's saying, yeah, we're going to protect you against identity theft and all this other stuff? It's like, what?
Yeah,
How do you even trust it?
I don't know if you guys remember, but there used to be a commercial when I was a kid, I'm 24, that was the guy who drove around with his social security number on the truck. It was for Life Alert or LifeLock. I can't remember what it was for. That guy has had
many times.
It's been stolen at least 6 times. This dude, his own product doesn't work, obviously. And he's ruined his credit for the rest of his life into this marketing stunt. And that's kind of what you look like right now if you went with Norton LifeLock to keep your passwords safe. And this is coming from someone who uses LastPass, right? My hands aren't clean, right? I just feel like taking into account the history of the manufacturer should be important. Norton antivirus has been useless for years. It's very similar with a lot of big antivirus companies, where it seems like Microsoft Defender has even like lapped them multiple times. So you're sitting here paying like a subscription fee for almost a useless product for a long time because you don't know better, because people think that, an antivirus is still something important for you to get. The problem is every single service that you subscribe to, whether or not it's a Webkins account that you're given a password to, whether it's, a Gemini crypto exchange that just got breached, is another vector for someone to get this information from you. Using a password manager, obviously it's a good idea. Using the Norton password manager, who has a poor history of cybersecurity awareness, was a bad idea. I wouldn't recommend staying with this product if they do fix whatever vector ended up opening them up to this. I believe it was password stuffing, that they got credentials from God knows where. I'm sure they've had breaches in the past that they may not have even mentioned. Just keep in mind, every single person that you give your information to is another vector for someone else to steal that information from. So, bit of a life
Josh,
Can I add
before we
something to
go
that?
on, I want to say something more about password managers.
Go ahead.
Your master password needs to be unique, and you don't need to reuse
Yes.
your master password because they were victims of credential stuffing too. So it's like, don't reuse your master password, your most important password, and please don't save it to Chrome.
Yes, please.
Well, guess what?
Please.
Here's even something better that a lot of people don't realize. You don't have to have a company like LifeLock or Norton LifeLock or a product like LastPass. You don't have to have one of these products breached in order to get your passwords to websites. How about this? Security questions. What are the typical security questions? What's your mother's maiden name? What year did you
Yep,
start
yep,
your first job? You know what I can
yep.
do? I'm going to go and Google your name. I'm going to find your LinkedIn. Odds are you're going to have when you started your first job. I've got one of your security questions. Boom, I'm going to write it down. What's your mother's maiden name? Cool, I'm going to go to facebook.com. I'm going to look up you, and then I'm going to look at your friends. I'm going to find your mom, and odds are she's going to have her maiden name on Facebook. Now I've got two of your questions. And then pick,
Yep.
what city or what's your first dog's name? I'm gonna go back to Facebook. I'm gonna go to Instagram. I'm gonna go to Twitter. I'm gonna do a search for dog or go to your images and see if you posted a picture of your pet. Odds are you're going to include the name somewhere or in some
Yes.
thread. You're gonna put the name of your dog. Be like, oh, I miss my dog. He died 10 years ago. Miss you, buddy, and replace buddy with whatever the name of your dog was. Now I've got all three of your security questions, and I can go reset your password, and I've got access to your account. So the moral
Yes.
of the moral of the story is use phrases, make up answers for your security questions. As a great
Yes.
professor in college that once said, you know,
Shirali.
yeah, shout out to Shirali. This professor recommended to always use something ridiculous like black hole sun as one of your answers, right? Like it can be totally made up. It's essentially MFA. It really is.
Right.
And making up these answers, odds are no one's gonna guess that. They're gonna be like, well, that makes no sense. But it's not for you. It's for the protection of your account and your details. So
Yeah.
just a little
We
tidbit
tend
there.
to have this idea that we're like anonymous as long as we don't provide things like our social security number and phone number, but truthfully there's only one Kevin who is 26 who lives in Lexington that uses like this product, right? Like it's so easy to thumbprint you based off of a very limited criteria that honestly giving anything out that's correct information, like Chase is saying, is just a target for a vector. And that kind of moves us on to our next story. We had PayPal breach that led to 35,000 customers' data being compromised. Now, while this may not have included debit and credit cards, like Chase was saying, this included things like phone numbers, security questions, things that very quickly someone could probably use to commit fraud against you. It does not take much. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the demos at DEF CON, where they'll like pick a random person from the audience and be like, hey, what's your name? What bank do you use? And they'll use those two pieces of information to get access through basic social engineering techniques. Does not take much. Something like this is kind of a nightmare. PayPal, I think that the other thing that was leaked was transaction history. Being being able to tie someone's name to the things they have bought recently is probably one of the best starting materials for phishing that someone could come up with. Can anyone come up just real quick off the top of your head, phone number and password? Someone think of a way to breach this person. You're
I
all
think I'm gonna need
fired.
more context.
Phone numbers are basically public record at this point, like with all the data breaches and all the data selling like that's out there, like just data selling in general. So yeah,
Of
it'd be easy to
course,
get
right. You could take that phone number and you could SIM swap, of course. Like SIM swapping is the main way people have been getting access to a lot of this stuff. It's the way to crack MFA. Obviously, even if passwords, which I believe passwords were compromised in this PayPal breach, aren't breached, the amount of information that allows attackers to tie more variables of you to you, the better picture they have of you, and the easier it is to commit fraud.
I will, say this too. You were just talking about SIM swapping. Kind of another way to get around that is, if it can be avoided, and there's a lot of cases where it absolutely can't, but don't use SMS based MFA. Whether it's maybe you use the Microsoft Authenticator app, or you get a YubiKey for certain individuals in your company or something like that. But that can be a great way to even harden your MFA, right?
Right, exactly. There's a lot of factors at play with these breaches, and the main thing I usually see, the thing I see every time is that if you have complex passwords in MFA, these breaches are a lot less scary to you because you have the security measures in place that are invented to protect against things like these. Breaches will happen. It's kind of impossible to conceive a company not being breached at some point. I mean, you're working on your security protocols, you're getting tighter in security, and you're keeping up with the pace of attackers. You may limit the amount of breaches that occur, but people will be trying constantly. So it's best to kind of take the preventative measure of assuming, okay, I'm sure this data will get out somehow. How can I make this data useless to the people it gets to? That's going to be all for today. I just wanted to send a quick shout out to our LinkedIn. We're trying to push a couple more followers on there, so go follow us on there. You can see all of these fun threat intel posts on there and interact with other people who are commenting. It's how social media works. You make friends. That'll be all for this week. I think that's it from the guys as well. Anyone else got anything? Sweet.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right.
I can add something real quick. Why not?
All right. All right.
So
Go ahead.
I guess regarding like SIM swapping, I don't know if you all or if anyone knows. I'm sure you know, obviously, but anything above like an iPhone 14 nowadays, there's no more like physical SIM card. They use this thing called an eSIM. Now, I know SIM swapping is obviously you call up your cell phone provider and you're like, hey, blah blah blah. You do some phishing techniques to convince them to swap that person's SIM to another phone. I don't know if eSIM, I haven't really done any research, but I'm wondering if eSIM has some sort of extra security capabilities to prevent that from happening. Like I don't know if that matters or if it's just like it's called an eSIM, electronic SIM, just because it's electronic. They just send it wirelessly over to your phone, and then your phone can work and you can get cellular service. But I don't know. That was kind of a thought to my mind because I recently got an iPhone 14, and as you can see, it's just there's no SIM slot. It's just all electronic. So I don't know if that really matters or not, but still an interesting thing to think about.
I don't know. Well, let's come back with an answer next week. If anyone's curious, we'll have an answer for you next week. We're going to look into SIM swapping. We're going to figure out how that works. We'll give you a quick little idea of it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have a great week. Have a secure week. If you have any security needs or consultation needs, Volta is always available. You can email us at hello@voltainc.com or hit us up on our LinkedIn, YouTube, or our website. Honestly, we're very accessible people. We love talking. Have a good week, eyes open, and thank you for watching.